What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Vitamin C's. As usual, I'm your boy Adam Taylor. Find me over at CelticsBlog.com, Heavy.com. Find my Instagram page over at Adam Taylor NBA. Same on Twitter. You know the score. I'm joined by my homie, my compadre, my co-host in crime, Mr. Tim Shields. What's popping, Tim?
Nothing much, man. Kind of just been a whirlwind after this past season, and everything going on with the Celtics offseason has been really exciting, And I hope everyone's been keeping in touch with that because it's been really interesting to watch. Obviously, follow Adam's work over at Celtics blog. Plenty of stuff, plenty of good writers there, so keep reading over there.
I don't know about you, man, but it's hot as balls here, dude. I'm sweating from my feet are hot. I'm so hot, dude.
My recording room, like we've got an AC in here, but if I put it on, it's just like so loud. So I kind of just like have to like suck it up for the half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, how long I'm recording in here. So it's just like a sauna in here. Yeah, it's getting in like the 90s. It was like 91 yesterday. So it gets pretty hot around here.
I don't even tan, dude. That's the worst part.
Oh, I farmer's tan. I get like all freckly and like red.
I just don't I stay the same. Like I just don't change. It's really annoying, man, because I think I'd look good with that tan skin. Anyway, let's jump into some Celtics basketball. We've just completed game 3 of the Summer League tournament. Well, it's not even the tournament, it's the prelude to the tournament. Celtics 2-1, lose the first game against Miami, win game 2 against Milwaukee, win game 3, the revenge game against the Golden State Warriors. Yo, they look good against the Warriors, dude. The ball moved crisp. Everyone was hitting shots. Broderick Thomas was like, yo, did you not know that my real name was Steph Curry? And I've been smoking y'all. Jokes aside, he played really well. Justin Jackson played well. Travion Williams, his passing game was on point. And then you've got Cabangele. I've got to learn to pronounce that correctly.
I've heard Cabangele. That's what I've heard on like the announcers a couple times. So if they're wrong, then we're all wrong together.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, my outlook here is, and I want to start here, is out of everyone on that roster, Sam Hauser included, Cabangele is the most NBA-ready talent on that Summer League roster.
I mean, he was a first-round pick before, right? And he played previously with the Clippers. I know for much, but he looks good. And I think he's an option. I mean, we were talking about before we hopped on, just looking at the overall roster build and how many spots they have left. By our math, they've got 3 regular roster spots open, and this includes all the signings, including Malcolm Brogdon getting traded here, as well as the signing of Danilo Gallinari, and they will have one more two-way spot because J.B. Davison was signed to his two-way contract. So basically, the Celtics, with the Summer League roster, have to decide, okay, how many of these guys are we going to keep? How many of these guys are going to end up, signing with the main Red Claws or main Celtics now, which I still don't like, but they've got to decide what they're going to do with this last two-way contract. And I think that's more so, I think they kind of need to try and take a gamble on Trevion Williams. But out of those guys that we've mentioned before, Cabangele just makes a lot of sense if you're trying to add someone who could play a little bit of small ball, 5 maybe. He just looks good. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's picking up on all the right things that you would want him to. In terms of his defense, it's solid. I mean, he's fun to watch too. Good energy guy too.
Yeah, plays above the rim a lot. I think his I think his screening could use some work. I don't think he's the best screener. He's not setting those, like he's planting his feet, but he's not really putting his body into it and forcing that contact. So I think that's probably an area of weakness for him. I did think that he projected as more of a drop defender, but then against Golden State, he was doing a little bit of work closing out onto the perimeter, which was nice to see. I think his lateral movement's quite good. His explosiveness is quite good. Now, the downside is, and I said this on the Celtics blog podcast the other day, the downside for me right now, excuse me, is he's a jack of all trades, right? He's not a specialist big man. He's a bit of a rim runner. He's a bit of a floor spacer. Little bit of a screen and roll guy. A little bit of a lob threat. He doesn't excel in any one area. Now, that could be a benefit, but it could also be a detriment. Because when you need someone off your bench, usually you want them in a specialized role. You want them to have a very defined and clear, hey, if you're backing up Rob, then your job is going to be protect the board, like protect the rim, clean the boards, and then run the floor, be a lob threat, space the floor down in the dunker spot. if you're bringing in someone like Cabangele, then there's going to be a little bit more of a caveat to his game where you might want to run him in pick and pop situations. You might want him to be a low screen guy. You might want him to be somebody that's setting hammer screens. I just feel like you're moving away from having that replacement, and that versatility comes in handy as well. But when I'm looking at Travion Williams, for example, he comes in with a very defined skill set. Hey, we're going to run you the ball at the mid post. You're going to create out of that mid post, whether that be through grenade actions, whether it be through skip passes. We don't care. We just know that you can get the rock where it needs to go. We're going to put you in that position. Then you look at this roster construction already. You've got Al Horford, Rob Williams. That's two of the best passing big men in the league. Not the best. Nikola Jokic holds that crown, but two of the best. Bringing in someone like Travion Williams, asking him to learn from someone like Horford that, you know, has athletic limitations himself, hasn't really been the most athletic guy through his career. Asking Williams to learn from him, and then asking him to kind of learn from Grant Williams as well in that adjustment, working on your body, getting your body right to be in the position that you need to be in physically. I think that there's a lot under the surface of Travion Williams, and I'd much rather take the upside swing on him with a two-way deal than just post Cabangeli on the bench and then your backup big battle. The two guys fighting it out for minutes off the bench big is Luke Cornett and Cabangeli. I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable with that.
I don't feel comfortable with it either. And I don't know how much of that was the Celtics being coy when they were talking about Luke Cornett and saying we feel really comfortable with Luke Cornett moving forward. It's
I'm
not
glad
that
you do. I don't.
It's not that I don't. It's tricky, right? Because it's not that I dislike Luke Cornett or that I don't think that he could play some minutes, but I feel like, again, he needs to be used in specific situations. He's not a guy that you can depend upon to be like, hey, you know, so and so is getting some rest today, or like we need to go ahead and manage this guy's minutes. You know, we need to go ahead and throw our third big out there. I really don't feel comfortable having Luke Cornett play those kind of minutes unless it's like in a certain matchup dependent game. I don't think he's a guy that you want out there for significant minutes at a time, just because there's certain aspects to his game that are easy to expose. Because while he's a big guy and he's not bad for pick and roll defense, he's not great. He's not fast. He's not athletic. He's got size, and that's really about it. And for a big guy, he does have a okay 3-point shot, but like, you know, but it's not like, hey, I want to go ahead and feed him at least 3 or 4 attempts, you know, while he's on the floor. That's not what you're putting him out there to do, you know. And I think that's why you added a guy like Gallinari, who's a 3-point specialist, when we talk about specialists coming off the bench to provide certain skill sets. So really what I feel like the Celtics need is a rim runner. I don't know if they're going to get that from any of these guys that are in summer league, but I just don't think that they should let a guy like Trevion Williams with his passing ability just go. I think he needs to be on a 2-way contract. I think out of all the guys that I saw for playing for the summer league Celtics, I think he's the one that I would want to keep on that 2-way.
Now, if you look at, like, we'll move off summer league for a minute and then we'll come back to it. Talking about these bigs, who would you like? Because I think I came into it with DeMarcus Cousins as that guy for me. Just gives you a little bit of a bite. You know, he's got that attitude. He can fill that Marcus Morris role where he's the enforcer off the bench. He can stretch the floor a little bit, solid rebounder. But over the last few days, I genuinely think that I've talked myself into it being Dwight Howard.
Really?
I think so. Because, again, it's a specialist, right? Like, Dwight Howard is not an above the rim player anymore. He's not anywhere near more than a 10-minute a night guy. Any more than 10 minutes a night, you're really going to be in bad waters. But in those 10 minutes, he can give you solid rebounding, a solid low post presence, and he can be your putback guy. He can be exactly what you need backing up Rob Williams in short minutes. Now, the only thing is that doesn't help you when Rob misses games.
And I think that's really where like the Celtics kind of get caught, right? Is they need someone who can slot in for some minutes there. And I guess if you're looking for low cost, because I think that they want to try and see if they can get someone on the veteran minimum, right? Like they've talked about trying to sign a player to the veteran minimum to be that third center. And if they can't do that, then they will look at the trade market. That's what's at least been reported. I believe Chris B. Haynes reported it during one of the Summer League Celtics games. So if they're trying to go ahead and find someone in the market, Dwight Howard, if he's available and he's willing to take a vet minimum, sure. I think DeMarcus Cousins is a guy you could consider too. But if you're looking at trade targets, unless you're going to try and find some, like, if someone's
Naz
on a
Reid
small,
comes to mind straight away.
the only person that I could think of is Jakob Poeltl, and even then, like, his cap hit's going to be big, and you don't know what San
It's the
Antonio is going to.
assets as well, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
San
tough.
Antonio aren't giving him up for nothing. Like I had Naz Reid on my list. You know, he's making less than $2 million a year. The Timberwolves just signed Gobert. Are they going to play Karl Anthony Towns at the 5 sometimes? If they are, what does Reid's role next season project to be? You know, he's on the final year of his deal. Yeah, they're going to hold his bird rights, but are they going to want to pay him? Could you get him for a heavily protected drafts pick? If you can do that, then Naz Reid fits perfectly. If not, Derek Favors makes perfect sense as well as a defensive-minded big man. Oklahoma will probably give him away for a second-round pick. Outside of that, things start to get murky. I'd love it. Pirtle to me is the dream target. I know Keith Smith has put out a huge list of trade targets for the Celtics. Mason Plumlee was in there. Olynyk was in there.
Favors was in there too.
Favors was
Favors
in
and
there.
Pirtle were both in there. And now that you mentioned Kelly Olynyk too, I mean, that's a reunion. A lot of people would be really happy about that. But I
Yeah.
think, again,
So
it
there's
comes
a
down to
lot of
that
options.
tax, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, Brad Stevens said yesterday that, you know, he's got the green light to spend whatever he needs to spend, but he's trying to add without taking away. Now, to me, that means, can I throw in a second round draft pick and get a Derek Favors, or can I throw in a heavily protected first and an unprotected second and bring in Naz Reid? Well, now I'm not really taking away. And the one thing we've learned about Brad Stevens is he does not care when it comes to draft picks. He's like, yo, these are just fun coupons, dude. I don't want these. I saw the amount of heat Danny Ainge got for his draft picks throughout his career, so I'm just not going to make any. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I'll pick JD Davison at with the 53rd pick, and if it doesn't work out, no one's going to care. If it works out, I'm looked at as a genius. I mean, looking past the bigs, when you look back at that summer league roster, Matt Ryan's impressed. Sam Hauser, I don't think's impressed offensively. Defensively, he's been doing some stuff though. You know, if you want to find out what, go follow me on Instagram. And then, as we were talking about before we came on air, Justin Jackson impressed the hell out of me against Golden State, man. What you seen from Justin Jackson?
I think it's an example of a guy who was in the NBA who's really fighting hard to get back into it. And I just feel like I think the biggest thing he's got going for him is that experience factor. And he was a guy that they signed to a hardship exception when they were really going through tough COVID times. So he has some familiarity with the Celtics organization, and they brought him in, I want to say on Monday, to join this summer league team. So the fact that they brought him in again after signing to that hardship exception before means that they at least want to try and take a second look at this guy. And they do need another wing, I think, to bolster that depth that they have there.
Yeah, and then the question is, do you think he could be a viable rotation wing? You know, a guy capable of not playing for 3 or 4 games and then getting minutes and being impactful. Because that's where veterans are so valuable, right? Like a veteran wing will not play for 3 or 4 games, come in, you know exactly what you're getting from them. And that's the downside of having these younger dudes, where it's just like, man, I don't have this. Like, you know, Neesmith was kind of in that role last year, and you saw how much he struggled, and that's why he's no longer on the roster. Hopefully, he's going to get a bigger role in Indiana because they're rebuilding, and it makes sense for him to do so. But I look more along the lines of a veteran for a plug and play wing that isn't going to be getting consistent minutes. If he is going to get consistent minutes, I think Justin Jackson's a good buy low, sell high type of guy. I think that there's definitely something there that you could probably work with. I've got every faith that Udoka could put him in a position to be successful. If not, then I know Chris Forsberg recently threw out the idea of Torrey Craig, and I was like, I wouldn't be mad at that.
I definitely wouldn't be mad at Torrey Craig either. I think both of these guys now, especially after seeing Jackson go off like he did against Golden State in the summer league game, you're looking for a guy that can add some kind of 3-point threat. I think that's sort of been the overall MO of the Celtics offseason so far, is adding shooting to their second unit. And I think right now, based on just on the trades, getting Danilo Gallinari on free agency, they're like 10 deep. Like, and this is a good thing for the Celtics, because now it's like you're just doing some small tweaks around the edges. You don't need to go ahead and take a big swing with the trade exception now, because you went out and you got Brogdon for unfortunately for Daniel Tice and Aaron Nesmith, guys who weren't a massive part of your playoff run. Daniel Tice was crucial when Rob was out, but other than that, he was getting played off the court in a lot of these games. He wasn't really effective against Miami. He wasn't really good against Milwaukee either. So now you're looking at a situation where you're just changing these little, small things on the outside. So taking a risk or taking a gamble on a guy like Jackson makes a lot of sense if you think that he fits what you need. Now it's like you're literally just looking for specialists. You're looking for scoring specialists, or you're looking at a guy who can, be a rim runner off the bench. Like those are very specific roles, and you can find guys for that. And it might be a situation where you do find a guy who's out in the market who you can sign for the veteran minimum. I mean, I think of what happened with Phoenix, where they went out and they got Bismack Biyombo, and all of a sudden Bismack Biyombo is like back in the NBA and being like a solid contributor. You can find someone like that. You got to find the right person and the right fit, but it's possible to do that, to find someone on the street.
Who was it they were looking at? Israeli MVP, Anuku.
Yeah, he had a couple different workouts with a couple teams, right?
Yeah, so it was the Lakers, the Celtics, and then a bunch of other teams. But he's another guy like that, like a Biyombo, where he's been out of the league for a while, could come back and could contribute. But obviously, he's a big, not a wing. When you're looking at wings, there's still available wings too. I do think that Sam Hauser needs to be given opportunities. I think that, he's definitely trying to show he's improved defensively. Whether or not that's real, it's hard to tell because this is summer league competition after all. Everything doesn't always look as good as it seems. I don't know who else I'd be happy with coming off this roster though. Like Davison's obviously quite raw. Outside of the guys we just spoke about, everybody, Broderick Thomas has been Broderick Thomas. Everybody else kind of just gave you what they've got. Like, there's nothing spectacular.
I mean, I did like the effort from Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan looked really good towards the end of, obviously, hit that big shot against the Bucks. I mean, like, that was huge. But that's the kind of guy that you want to stick around just because it feels like a feel-good story. Hearing him tear up after talking about his time, like going from
DoorDash,
I was living at home, like DoorDash. This guy was working as a DoorDash driver, and like now he's able to say that he went to the NBA Finals. And I think that's a feel-good story. I think that's a guy that they should keep around, and I think it's entirely possible that he stays. I don't think he's a two-way though. I think he'll
his
be one of the
movement shooting
guys.
should be enough.
Exactly.
Because I project Hauser to be more of a catch and shoot guy. Right?
You need him to be. I think they showed that sign of faith with that contract.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is like I don't imagine Hauser being the guy to collect a ball off a dribble handoff and go straight into shooting motion. I see him more as a guy that, is in the corner and then he shakes up or shakes down, catches the ball and releases. He's a catch and shoot guy. Matt Ryan is the dude you want running over screens and firing. He's more of a Duncan Robinson, whereas Hauser is more of a Kyle Korver. That's kind of the way I've contextualized their differences in shooting ability. One's more movement, one's more stationary. Both of those guys can give you value in a regular NBA season. Obviously, as we saw with Duncan Robinson, single skill shooters start to lose their value the deeper into the playoffs you get. But there'll still be spot minutes for them. There'd still be a moment in time in an NBA Finals where you just need a guy that can catch and shoot threes. Now, Danilo Gallinari is going to offer you that, and he can step in off a closeout and shoot on the mid-range. But if you can have one on either side of the floor just to give Tatum and Brown more room to cook, then you want to do that. But I do think that there's a world where Matt Ryan and Sam Hauser can coexist on the same roster simply because one's more stationary than the other.
Yeah, and I think both of them have. I mean, now at this point, Sam Hauser is here. He's got that 3-year deal locked up. That was definitely something that the Celtics wanted to get hammered out because it was one of the first things they did when they had the chance to once the moratorium wrapped up. It was that, and they went ahead and finalized that Brogdon deal and made it official after physicals, and then they went out and they got Gallinari. So it was clearly a priority for them to make sure that they had Hauser locked up long term, or at least for the near future, and on good money too, like very small money. He's a guy that you're taking a risk on, but you're also saying, hey, we're putting some faith in you because we think you have what it takes to be a contributor on this roster. So with that being said, yeah, I think they need to give him more minutes off the bench, and adding a guy like Matt Ryan, I certainly don't think hurts this team. They had him in-house last year. They know what he can do, and he's shown what he could do in that, especially in that second game against the Bucks for the Summer League. So he's a guy that I would keep around. But after that, you've got one more two-way. I don't think Ryan's going to be on there. I think he'll be a full-time
Yeah,
roster player if they're going to
and I
do
think
that.
Travion Williams gets the two-way.
And so
And I'm
now you're
fine with
looking
that.
at two more
JD
spots, right?
Davison, JD Davison, Travion Williams, give them a year in Maine, see what they're about.
Mm.
I came into Summer League with the genuine belief, because I did that huge deep dive on JD Davison when they drafted him. Watched every single piece of footage on him, every possession twice from last season. So I was very confident I knew what JD Davison was about. The one thing I'll say I got wrong was, and that's okay to get things wrong, I came into Summer League believing he was a bench player on a G League team. I genuinely believe that he could be a starting guard on a G League team. Shooting, his finishing around the rim is awful. For somebody so explosive and so athletic, I'm really kind of perplexed how he struggles to finish at the rim. So it's really bad. His jump shot isn't great. I think his timing on his pullbacks and stuff, his space creation isn't great either. But defensively, he's pretty sound. He does get beat a lot, just struggles to navigate screens, but his athleticism lets him recover quite quickly. Good change of pace, good probe dribble, good pound dribble when he tries to create space that way too. There's definitely some upside there. I don't think he's a star in the G League whatsoever. I think he's still a year or two away from even being like a high-end contributor at that level. But he's worth a look for a year, and I think they'll give him a second two-way next year as well. I've got a lot of hope for Travion Williams. I think he's a starting caliber 5 in the G League right now, simply because of that playmaking skill. It's so rare, dude. And when you look at why Jokic got drafted in the first place, Jokic was picked up because he was a playmaking big, and having those two skill sets where you can rebound the ball, bring the ball up, and initiate actions, it's not commonplace for big men to do that. So I definitely want them to take a closer look at him. By no means am I saying that Travion Williams will ever be as good as Jokic. I want to put that out there right now. There's levels to this shit, and we're talking fucking, I don't know, caviar and fucking
Krispy Kreme.
chips. Yeah, Ruffles chips. But there's a world where he can get not be Ruffles chips anymore and be a good steak dinner. We can get to a steak dinner. We didn't get into caviar, but a steak dinner's okay. That's all you really need, right? For a rotational big. Be my steak dinner, bro. So I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, and I think Trevion, his passing abilities, it's exciting to watch just because I think that's what's making it worth keeping him on the G League contract, having him be on a two-way deal. Because I think there's some things he needs to pick up on better. His defense wasn't stellar. There's definitely a matter of him, getting his body right. Whether that means, slimming down or, bulking up and putting on some more muscle. It depends on what the Celtics ultimately decide to do. If they do keep him on that two-way, if they're thinking he's going to be a small ball 5, so that means he needs to bulk up and put on some serious muscle, or it means he needs to slim down so he can play the 4 a little bit more. Either way, I think there's something there. This guy went to Purdue and was a really big piece there. So it's not like this is just some random college guy they're just taking a dice roll on. This is a guy who played for a major basketball school.
And
so there's a
D1 program.
Exactly. And so there's a chance for them to have something there. And there's been plenty of times where a guy's been undrafted and a team has struck gold. I'm not saying it's that kind of situation, but you could get a solid rotation big out of this. And that's all Boston needs. You don't need to go ahead and all of a sudden just find a diamond in the rough here and find this amazing star that somehow was just missed by everyone because some organization decided to take a chance on him. You just need someone who's going to be solid rotation minutes, maybe takes 10, 15 minutes off the floor, is able to be serviceable on defense, can provide some very, very good passing from the big man spot. That's all you're looking for. And if you can manage to get that out of Trevion Williams, that'd be great. I mean, everything that he said so far to the media, just the way that he's talked and handled himself, just screams Celtics. Just everything about the way he talks.
I'd also like to put it out there that I too am an undrafted rookie, and I too could be the person you strike gold with.
You never know.
6'3" with handles, bro. I grew up on one videos, man. I got the handles. I'm old
ain't
now.
Got nothing on me.
He got a lot more than me. But I'm old now, but I could give you a solid 3 minutes a game. I'm not gonna score, Probably not going to stop anybody either, but I'm a body. I'll take a rookie minimum deal. Be there tomorrow.
What about Begarin or Begarin?
I like him. I think that against Golden State was his best game of Summer League so far. Defense is there pretty much. You know, he's got the athleticism to be able to hang, can run the floor really well. I think his offensive decision making needs improvement. His shooting's too patchy. There's no consistency offensively. I think you can make a case for bringing him over this season, but I don't think that's best for him. Another year in Paris, he's going to be playing with is it what's the
Wembanyama. I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Wembanyama.
He's going to be Wembanyama's moving to Paris this year to play for that team, so he's going to be teammates with the number 1 projected draft pick of next year. So there's going to be a lot of development time for Begarin back in Paris. He struggled in that league because Paris moved up to the French Pro League, like the top league in France last season. Begarin struggled there quite a bit. I kept track of him. I think another year there just to really kind of prove that, you know, last year was an adjustment period. This year I'm going to dominate. I'm going to be alongside one of the best players in Europe. That could do wonders for him, helping him develop without being a primary option could really free him and allow that development to expedite. So I'd prefer him to do at least one more year in France.
I think that's realistic for both sides too. Originally, when they drafted him, it was because he was willing to go overseas. He was willing to be drafted and stashed. So I think right now, especially for him in terms of a paycheck, he's going to get more money overseas to play there. And I think the fact that the club moved up, you know, a rank in terms of league, and then you're adding in a guy like Wembanyama, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him to play with better talent there. And it means there's going to be a little bit more attention. There's going to be a little bit more focus on training. And he's going to be playing against, you know, fully grown adults overseas. So I think that's going to be a better opportunity for him. He's going to get more minutes, I think, over there.
Yeah, he'll be a starter.
And it'll be competitive too. So like I think that's more realistic for him as he spends another, you know, year overseas and you see where it goes from there. You know, they might have something there. And if he ends up being, you know, able to contribute at an NBA level, he can be, you know, a rotation wing off the bench. And that's good. And I think it's better with
the bench.
It's like you just got like a big sign. You're just like, sign me, please.
I can do this. Nah, I'm only joking,
dude.
I'm only joking. I'll get smoked so quickly. Yeah, jokes aside, I think Begarin's pretty good. Now I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this nicely. I think we should wrap up right there.
Yeah, fair. I think I wanted to just mention him before we wrapped up, just because I feel like that's been a talking point too for a lot of people, is seeing how he's played.
Yeah, I just don't think he's ready yet. Personally, I think one more year would he's developed a ton from last time we saw him to now. So one more year makes a lot of sense to me in terms of just like, you know, if that's how much he developed last season, now you know what you're walking into in that league. You're gonna have the additional, like, Wembanyama is going to have more focus on him than you're going to have on you. There's more opportunity to develop outside of that spotlight. I think he's going to be fine, but he's just not ready yet. One more year at least. And with that, if you enjoyed this show, which you should have because we're awesome, then make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment. And then make sure you go show me and Mr. Tim Shields some love over on social media. Our handles are on the screen. You can see them. Most importantly, we will be back sooner than last time. You will enjoy it because we're awesome. And have a great day. Anything you want to say to these lovely people, Tim?
Cheers. Welcome back. We've missed you.